Welcome to Soul Thrive, where we explore spirituality through healing trauma, shadow work, and applying the laws of the universe in order to master ourselves without the fear of the unknown.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Soul Thrive podcast. I'm so excited about today's episode. You know, I love talking about astrology all day, every day, even at work. They're like, chill out. But today we have Natasha Marita Kilfoyle joining us. She's an artist, an astrologer, and a stay-at-home mama to 2 toddlers. She loves using astrology as a modality to understand energetics and how each of us is built to express different facets of the creator. I love that. Welcome.
Welcome. I'm so excited. You did my chart, which was bang on, and I loved it. It was like everything that I knew, because I've done some form of astrology charts in the past, but I love the fact that you recorded yourself and you put it in like this. She put it like as a little like YouTube, recording, and it was beautiful. It was bang on. It was perfect. And I know that you sent yours in as well.
Before we get in, because I definitely have so many questions about all those things. Maybe let's talk about, because I know that you practice a little bit of a different form of astrology. So tell us a little bit more about what aspect of astrology do you practice?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is great. One of the things that can really help people understand this form of astrology is that this is really focused on the actual stars and constellations in the sky. So it's a form of sidereal astrology. If people ever hear the term sidereal astrology, that's what that means. It just means that you're actually looking at the constellations, and that makes it really nice for being able to actually do stargazing and sky watching, and what you're looking at in the sky is actually what we're talking about with the astrology. Whereas with Western astrology, in the form that most people just kind of mainstream Western astrology, it uses tropical measurements instead of sidereal measurements. And that doesn't actually map onto the constellations. And I don't know how many people actually know that. It used to, but there is a drift called the precession of the equinoxes. So if someone is they have their moon in Aries in Western astrology that most people know, that does not mean that the moon was actually in the constellation of Aries at their birth.
It's going to get rocked now.
What I want to also say to people who want to learn this is that can be so disruptive and almost like a cognitive dissonance of do I have to throw at all the astrology? They both seem to have, there's a reality to both of them, but it's really more about holding both of them side by side and understanding, just taking it all in to understand yourself better. And when you're hearing something that resonates, it allows you to know yourself better, and it gives you something to work with in your daily life. So these are kind of things where people don't have to, it's not about Western astrology being wrong, but it is the fact that the Western system, the tropical measurements, actually divide up the sphere of the earth according to more of the seasons. So the beginning of Aries is where the sun is at the spring equinox, and then they just kind of divide the sphere of the earth into 12 portions based on that first point of Aries, which is like a coordinate system that was developed. So it's kind of like a slice of the sky that is assigned to Aries, Gemini in the Western system. Those used to line up with the constellations, but now they're a little bit off.
If we were talking about insights that this form of astrology would give us, what would be different? If we were to do, because I can actually compare, because I've done my chart and I've had my readings with the Western astrologers, how most of us know astrology today. So and I know that I've given you also my birth information. So I'm curious, what are the additional insights that go into this type of reading?
Yeah. So the main thing that is actually really valuable within this system is not so much just looking at the level of the zodiac signs, but that as soon as you are looking at constellations instead of the portions of the sky, now we're talking about sidereal astrology, constellations, what Vedic astrology does, and the system of the lunar mansions or the Nakshatras that I actually use, that's actually looking at smaller portions of the sky than just the zodiac signs. The zodiac signs themselves are relatively large portions of the sky, and each one of them in Vedic astrology is subdivided into about 2.5 smaller little signs. called the
Sorry?
Nakshatras.
It's a little bit more like you're getting more detail. Like it's like a zooming into the perspective instead of the generalized perspective of it. I think that's
exactly.
yeah. It's really cool.
So that's where a lot of the juice is that you basically are getting these. We're talking about smaller signs, even though they're still contained within the bigger signs. The bigger signs are these broad strokes. And then it's like, so what that means for people when they're like grounding down into this is that, or if you're a Virgo or something like that, is you have Virgo moon, I think it was, right? Yeah. And you still have Virgo moon in this system.
I do. Because I'm a Virgo sun.
That. Virgo, okay, let me just see.
Yes, that's what I'm.
It's shit. And that's what I don't want people to get hung up on, is that your sign is going to often be different. In this system, you have Virgo moon instead of Virgo sun.
Oh, interesting.
So that's somewhere else in your chart. Whereas people who never resonated with their Western signs, this might be why, because there might be something else.
I feel like that's me because I'm a Pisces.
Your chart.
I remember. I mean, I'm a Leo rising.
Yeah.
I just don't remember what my moon was.
Your moon in this one is in Gemini. So
yeah.
The same, different than your Western. Sometimes it's going to be a little bit different, but yeah. So, but again, I don't want to get too in the weeds about the signs. I'll just get into like a little bit of like where else we can focus for people to get the value of Vedic astrology that's actually just a totally separate thing that it has going on compared to the signs. The main thing with the Nakshatras, to interpret Nakshatras that are these lunar mansions, essentially the moon spends about a day, like 1 day of its cycle in each one of these lunar mansions or lunar stations. So that's kind of how they divided up these smaller portions. It actually mirrors or reflects the moon's transit more so than signs. The signs actually reflect more of the sun's transit. So this is more of, it almost taps into more of the divine feminine. It's very lunar based. It's actually like these smaller signs because during the moon's 28-ish or something day cycle, it's hitting one of these nakshatras each day-ish. So there's 27 nakshatras. I think there's a decimal point there. So it's very much a lunar-based system, which is what's really beautiful about it. So they're these smaller portions, but they each have a planetary ruler. So that's the main thing that people are going to want to do to interpret what their nakshatras actually mean, is to understand the nakshatra lord or the planetary ruler, because each one of the zodiac signs already does this. People know in Western astrology, there's a planetary ruler for each one of the zodiac signs, and that's really significant to interpreting the energy of the sign. So like Virgo is ruled by Mercury, like they're mercurial people. Like Aries is ruled by Mars. And so people can easily look that up. And that's just an easy way to understand that concept of a planetary ruler. And it's like a large layer of interpretation that you would use. And so each one of the nakshatras gives you a more detailed planetary ruler. And that's so significant for a person's personality. Like what is actually the planet that they're essentially embodying through their nakshatras. So that would be the main thing for someone to look at their main placements, like their moon and their sun and their rising. What are the nakshatra lords or planetary rulers? And if you have, for example, a moon placement, like your moon placement is in a Venus ruled nakshatra, you're like a Venus person. In that case, like that you embody the planet Venus, like that person is going to have heavy Venusian traits. And that's a piece that we don't get as much in Western astrology. We'll talk about like, oh, I have Aries moon, and maybe people talk a bit about how that gives you like this Mars quality. But with the nakshatra system, it's very emphasized. Like if you have a Venus ruled moon and we're comparing you to other people who have Venus ruled moons, you're going to see like it's mind blowing. Like these people are Aphrodite. These people are like the living goddess. That's where you see this archetypal mythic layer of essentially what mystery schools have always spoken of as like the gods and the archetypes. And they actually worked heavily with astrology in the mystery schools to work directly with these archetypes. So this mythic lunar layer that actually just doesn't really get covered in Western astrology is where you really see the embodiment, because the moon itself is so much about like our actual body. So people who have the same nakshatras or even the same nakshatra lords, they will look similar. Like this has been documented.
Right.
So there's actually like scientific backing at this point where there's been enough research done, especially by the researcher and astrologer Claire Nakni, who I'll be able to like give for the show notes or something for people to check out the research-based stuff. And she spent years like checking all of these charts and then seeing like, these people look the same. This is like when people are actually finding that they have doppelgangers and like weirdly resonant with people. That's actually happening. And with Western astrology, you can't be like, oh, it's because they're all Aries. Like it doesn't, it's too broad. It doesn't work. But when you get to the layer of the nakshatras, this is like, this is why this is your twin. This is why this is your best friend. This is what the dynamic is you have with your family. It's like insanely specific.
Oh, interesting. If you did it for Jenny.
Oh my God, that would be hilarious. My mother is Jenny. That's why she's like, imagine you did this for Jenny. Yes, that would be pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's
Well, it's like, why do we look the same as this person? Or like,
Totally.
why does this person remind me of this person? This is why.
what about past lives? Does that come through in these readings?
It does. Yeah. I like to look
Oof.
at the past life signature. You can read the archetypes of the past lives, not like a super ton of detail, but you can get definitely where a person is coming from. For this, we look at the south node
Okay.
in the chart, the lunar mansion that your south is in. You can use that to interpret basically where you're coming from as a soul in terms of your background, your mastery. You guys both had similar ones.
Ooh,
Does that mean we had past lives together?
yeah, for sure.
Yours, looking at your guys' chart, there was definitely like past life resonance. Again, with this, you wouldn't be able to be so specific. Like you guys literally had a past life together. Like I can't tell that kind of thing from a chart. See, it's like, oh, you have side by side nakshatras as far as where your south node is in your chart, and they're both in Scorpio. So you guys both had, that would be kind of like a big, having that Scorpio energy as your south node, as your past life archetype, but just really speaks to
What does that mean?
That's like having past lives where you're deeply immersed in mysticism, like shamanic kind of work. This deep work, every kind of scorpionic work, like kind of taboos, diving into like dark subjects. Yeah, healer.
Still do. Still in them.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's like, it's your past life, but then it's also your baseline coming in this life. It's just like, that's just where you have that embodied, integrated mastery that you're like, oh yeah, of course this thing. And other people are like, what? Like, how are you doing that?
Well, we have a funny story because the first time she ever came to me, I didn't remember this because I read people so much and I forget. But then she's like, don't you remember the first time we met and what you said to me? And I was like, what did I say to you? And she's like, you told me that we knew each other in a past life and that I was at your deathbed and like, and I was
In
like,
ancient Egypt.
the first thing I said to her,
Oh, who is this lady? She's crazy.
look at us now. We now have a podcast and we've done all these other great things, right?
So cool. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, you can see that reflected in the chart for sure.
What else can you see from the charts side by side?
It is so new information because it really is like, I love the fact, like we said, it's like you're honing into it so specifically, and then you're looking at the similarities, how you're navigating, like you're more about like the personality, like defining like so more of like how the personality is kind of navigating their experiences and what they're aligning with based on these aspects. So it's really cool to kind of look at it from that, because I do find I love astrology, but you're right. It's so generalized. Like when you're just looking at it from like a Virgo is a Virgo, it's like, well, no, I've never related to a Pisces as a Pisces, right? Like everyone who meets me, I do have characteristics that are very similar to that. But then at the same time, I've never related to being a Pisces in a lot of other ways. So it's fascinating to kind of like look at that. We have a friend who does astrology, Western astrology, and she's great. We love her. She had done my chart. My mom didn't remember when I was born. Let's just put it like this. So she gave me one time and date, and then she had done the chart, and then she gave me another time and date, and it literally lined up. She did 2 different charts for me. And then like 5 years later, I was like, by the way, it was wrong. You got to do it again. And so she did it. And it was exactly these two charts fused into what you were communicating to me in your recording.
What? That's so cool.
And I thought to myself,
converge.
yeah, it like literally like overlapped. And I thought to myself, oh my God. So that's why I said it was really cool listening to your reading when you did it for me, when you put it all together. I was like, oh my God, these are both my charts thrown in together. And like, I'm now listening to this progression of whatever it is. Yeah, it was really cool.
That's awesome. That's so good. Because I don't think that Pisces made it into your chart at all in here.
Wow.
That's crazy.
What made it into her chart?
Yeah, I think because you're talking about like being Pisces sun, right? Like,
yeah.
Being Pisces.
Sun sign.
Yeah. So it shifts like in your Vedic chart back to Aquarius. So you could actually be Aquarius sun.
Yeah. And my sister's an Aquarius.
But yeah, I'll bring forward the layer. Like I said, there's the signs and then there's the planetary rulers. Aquarius is great. We love Aquarius. And that's ruled by Saturn in traditional astrology. So that would be like talking planetary ruler for the sign. And we still take that into account. But then that portion of Aquarius that you have is the portion ruled by Jupiter. So the archetype of Jupiter would be way more what we actually look at to interpret how it is that you move in the world, how it is that you operate. And you had a lot of Jupiter rulership because Jupiter actually rules the portion of Gemini that your moon is in too. So just to give a little bit of, shows up with these planetary rulers, each planet rules over 3 of the lunar mansions and they form a triangle. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of like so people who are familiar with trines in astrology in general, there's always like this correspondence to like all of the fire signs form a triangle. So that maps on to the Nakshatras as like the ones that are ruled by Ketu, the South Node, for example. And I'll speak more on this South Node thing in a sec. Those are seated at the heart of each one of the fire signs. So that's how it's like distributed, is that there's basically these 3 portions of the zodiac that each one of the nakshatras rules over. So that's why you can have similarities between like how I said, you have 2 Jupiter ruled nakshatras, but they're in different signs because those are kind of spaced out. So it gives you this layer that you can't see with Western, because when you're looking at Western and you're thinking, okay, this is this sign of Leo or something like that, and you're thinking the similarities that I would have to other people based on this information would be other Leos. But that's not the way that this works, because if you have this Jupiter ruled portion of Aquarius, you're going to be very similar to people who have the Jupiter ruled portions of Gemini and Libra. It actually does correspond to the elements. It maps onto the same elemental correspondences, but the Jupiter people, you'll be able to see, like if you're Jupiter ruled, and then if you're checking your friend's chart and they also have a Jupiter ruled one, then that's going to be what you look at for resonance, like similarity of your appearance and stuff like that, as well as just the people that you tend to meet. And you're like, oh my God, we resonate so much. These are the people you're going to resonate with, other Jupiter people. A Mercury person, I live to communicate. And like when I ran my family's charts, see that we had, so this is why I want to point to this, is like they might not have the same nakshatra as you, they might not have the same sign as you, but if it's also a Mercury ruled nakshatra, if it's also a Mars ruled nakshatra, that's what you're looking for, just to kind of give people this so that they can then look and they can just do the calculation like, oh, my mom doesn't have the same, like in my case, my mom doesn't have the same Mercury that I do, but she has another Mercury rule. We're both Mercury.
Got it.
We both look at the Mercury traits. Yeah. And that's just a huge unlock for resonance and just like the mythic layer of our experience. Like when you know that you're a Mercury ruled person, or you have this really strong Mercury influence, you can start to see that in yourself. And of course that has made sense of my journey. Like my huge thing is like YouTube content creation. I'm like a virtual assistant who helps other people do social media content creation is like social media. Like, of course, it's just like, how do we communicate? How do we build bridges between worlds, material things? So it's a huge unlock for a life path. And then just seeing yourself in a mythic lens. It's almost like Mercury is like archetype of the giver of knowledge, like the teacher archetype. And so is Jupiter, right? Jupiter is known in Vedic astrology as guru. The difference between Mercury and Jupiter is that Mercury can teach you all the little steps of how to do the thing, step by step, and all the little tiny details. Ivana, that's how you pronounce your name, right?
Yes.
You have a lot of Mercury because you have like the Virgo moon, and then you also have your ascendant in a Mercury rule. So what I'm saying here is like, you actually have this Mercury rulership of your ascendant. So it's like that type of person is like, you're very detail oriented, but it's also like a huge indicator for someone who's going to be obsessed with astrology, because astrology is a system, it's a language, and a Mercury ruled person's brain is just like, oh my God, I want to learn this language. I want to learn the grammar. I want to learn the syntax. I want to learn how all of these pieces go together. And that's just what we do. Like, our minds are just so, I'm constantly like narrating stuff to myself in my head, and people are like, wow, you're so articulate. It's like, it's because my mind is always articulating things or like narrating things. To articulate it like within my own head. And then if I find a new system that interests me, I'm like, eat that all up. Like, just like,
you're describing Ivana to a T.
And then
literally
like teach it, right? And then that's so it's like very obsessive, detail oriented. And it's like that, of course, characterizes Virgo. Again, like, we're still talking planetary rulers. Like Virgo is this, but then we're also talking this specific nakshatra where you have your ascendant in this system. It's actually within Pisces. Like, all the Mercury ones are in. Yeah. All the Mercury ruled nakshatras are within the water signs.
So what's my, I don't want to say sun sign because that's not relevant to Vedic astrology. So if my sign changed, is it still Virgo or no? Is something else?
Leo.
Leo?
Yeah, and so that's one that I wanted to speak to, because you guys both have the same nakshatra within Leo. It's one of the things that if I look at your two
what
charts,
does that
you
mean?
actually share a nakshatra in common. Yeah, and this is one of the ones that is so interesting because it goes completely under the radar in Western astrology.
They don't need to know.
The most secret thing. It's one of the two most secret ones.
You're so crazy right now.
I love it.
I definitely want to speak about this one because people who loved it are not seen by Western astrology. They have a unique type that no one knows. Since within the fire signs, there are these special portions of each one of the fire signs that don't really, because obviously Leo is a fire sign. So that still applies. We're still talking Leo, like normal associations that you would have with Leo. It's ruled by the sun, and it's a fire sign. But when you zoom into each one of the fire signs, you get this super spooky secret portion. And so that's ruled by the south node. The south node exists in Western astrology, like you can read it in the chart. And for anyone who doesn't know, the nodes, the north node and the south node, are points at which moon's orbit crosses over the sun's apparent orbit, so you can get an eclipse. They're the eclipse points. So they're not physical planets, but in Vedic astrology, they carry a ton of weight and are given, they rule over nakshatras just as much as a planet that is a physical body floating around rules over nakshatras. They have their own like special place. They don't rule over any of the signs. There's no sign ruled by the lunar node, but there are nakshatras ruled by the lunar nodes. So
go ahead. I'll reserve.
Because it's a lot of kind of,
as far as like our personality goes, if we have this aspect within both of us and like
in Leo, right?
Not as obvious.
No, it isn't. Because like someone told me, remember I said the two different charts?
Actually, I'm Leo rising.
That floored me. I was like, what?
Why?
So what does that mean now for the two of us? Like, we've got this point of, and it's in the North Node. How does that like guide our personality, or what does that bring as far as like work goes, business,
partnership?
Like, how does that translate?
So it's in the south. It's ruled by the south.
Okay.
There are two very distinct energy types. As far as energetics, this is, like I said, so it's an eclipse point. So it's almost like someone who is a walking eclipse is like one way of that someone can make sense of like what I said, them being an eclipse point. And so, yeah, the south node is called Ketu. So if it's okay, I'll just call it Ketu for the rest of because that's actually the name in Vedic astrology. And if people want to look it up. So yeah, it's its own unique energy type. And so the way Ketu energy functions is it's considered like it's called like a shadow planet just because it's not like technically a real planet. But the shadowiness kind of like speaks to its nature a little bit. So the function of Ketu, what happens with Ketu is it kind of dissolves identity structures and your ability to identify strongly with your human avatar. It actually is someone who is a little bit outside of consciously identifying with their personality and their character. It's like someone who's always a little bit outside of the game of reality. It's kind of this archetype of almost like the dropout or like the shaman, the seer, the mystic. It's a deeply mystical archetype. And the energy of Ketu in Vedic astrology, it's just always dissolving anything that is kind of like tying us to this realm. So it's required anyone can tap into the energy of Ketu. And that's what you have to do in order to step outside of it. Like when you have an ego death.
That's what I was going to say, death and rebirth. You and I always go through that.
When it comes like my partner's down, I'm down too.
Whereas other people will go through cyclical identity deaths and like midlife crisis or something like that. It's like the person who's ruled by Ketu, the Ketu ruled person just lives there all the time.
Girl, we're in a midlife crisis every day.
Every day.
Every day you wake up and you're just like, wait, who am I? Like, I can be beneath it. Like you're not tied to like,
no, we actually talk a lot about that. Yeah. We don't really ever fully define who we are. We're always like evolving. We're always wanting to evolve into more and understand more and dive deeper and go into the shadow stuff.
Yeah, totally. So looking at your partnership, it's just like you have that exact same thing in common. And what I spoke to in your reading too, Christina, is that like this again is within Leo. And it's a really interesting paradox because Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun is all about like, this is me, this is whatever. And so, but there's just this beauty to Magha Nakshatra. This is the name of a specific nakshatra. That's the portion of Leo that's ruled by Ketu, where it's just like kind of, as I described in your reading, it's the image or symbol of the ancestral throne. And I can speak to more of the connection with ancestry and past lives in a second here. It's basically this person who holds this paradox of like feeling how identity, like you're almost just a vessel for life to like flow through you. And you're holding this identity and this like dignity, especially being able to tap into like the dignity of like you're like anchoring your identity in something bigger than you basically is kind of this archetype, because you're not attached to like your little identity. You don't play those games or you can't get into that game. But you also, the higher expression of this nakshatra is to take that and be like, so how do I play with what I do identify with? Or like, what is the bigger thing that is moving through me, whether I identify that as my higher self or like the inheritance? It's the nakshatra of the inheritor, because it's not only your higher self vertically as far as your spiritual identity, but it's also all of your lineage flowing through you. And you guys having this in your chart really speaks to a strong connection with your lineage, and that you actually stand for something like a resurgence of some kind of ancestral impulse. And so that's holding the paradox of being nobody and being somebody at the same time.
Absolutely.
Right? On behalf of a higher power or like greater power than you. And Terence McKenna had the same one. He had Magha Moon. And so if you listen to like Terence McKenna talk, he'll often speak about us being vessels for nature's intelligence to basically like move through a vessel. The power of this energy of Ketu is to be able to empty yourself and become that vessel and actually attune to just like, what am I? If I empty myself of ego constructs and my attachment to this personality, what gets to come in? Like what actually is beyond that?
Which is like all the work.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's bang on. I mean, that's what I said when I was listening to the reading we had. I was like, oh my God, this is exactly me. Because I'm always thinking the collective consciousness, the bigger mission, the bigger picture. Like, it's not about me. It's like, this isn't about me. This is about the bigger thing. And what's this energy? I'm always like, okay, ancestors or guides or whatever. I'm always kind of, and you're the same way. You're the same way. But you're always collectively, again, we're always underneath that radar, right? So like people need us. They don't know why they need us sometimes, but then they're just like flock to us. And we're just like, okay, this is what we're doing collectively or what. And you know that you do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like these are aspects we don't talk about in other modalities.
And like, I like the fact that we have this similarity because that makes me understand so much more of like our mission, why we even started the podcast to begin with and why I chose her specifically. I was like, no, I'm doing a podcast with you. I'm like, specifically you. And she's like, okay, like no questioning. It was just like, we're doing this. And I was like, yes, with you. I want to do this with you. Or like, I want to do a retreat with you. Or I want to do this, have this experience with you. Like, because I know she, like on like that other layer has like a similar understanding. And there's like, I find us non-judgmental with one another. We're like great when we're together. And even if we're apart, it's almost like we don't need to, we check in, but it's not like, you okay? Like, what's going on? Like, you good? Like, it's like, we know we're good wherever we're at, which is really cool.
We were joking how I'm literally her mama, her daddy, and her husband.
Libra, Virgo, Aries.
Yeah.
But from like the Western perspective, right?
That's so funny.
So if you're looking at side by side these charts of us, what does that mean? Because if we're about the collective and we're about the bigger picture, how is this guiding us towards that mission? What is the purpose of it to a degree? You know, like I know that we believe in the work that we do. I know that we really immerse ourselves in the shamanism, the magic of things. Ivana's really into magic and her culture because she's got the culture, right? So she
has
comes
spells.
from a lot of magic, right? I'm Greek, so I come from a lot of oracles or like all of that kind of lineage and stuff. So there's a lot of our ancestors, like you communicated, that are here, that are active and that are present in a lot of the things that we do. How is this guiding us towards the collective experience? Like, where is it taking us?
Like, what's the compass, right? Like, how do we?
Yes, I guess that's how do you form that question?
I know what you're trying to say.
Communicate. Like, I'm not too sure if I'm formulating the question correctly, but I do feel like you're correct with all of that. Like, I'm a shaman, I'm a shadow worker. I do inner child stuff all the time. Just my calling. I know that about me. But like you said, that falls in alignment to the guru aspect of stuff, right? Even though I have a really hard time with a lot of the spiritual community, I don't fit into that either.
Right. That makes sense.
Identifying with something specifically, right? Because I can't just, fit into that. I'm not judging it. It just doesn't flow well with me. And then you're right. Again, the other aspect too of I can't just conform into day-to-day conversation. That makes me also like, go, I don't really know what to tell you.
We joke about her doing a 9-to-5 job. Hilarious.
Let's just go insane. Yeah. I think we both want to learn the mission, the purpose, if that makes sense.
It's kind of funny how the people who have this rulership by Ketu, like I said, they go under the radar, or like you guys are like the unseen ones of the zodiac in a lot of ways, where this energy like doesn't get it's almost like a lot of people who come to me for readings have that one, because there's that deep inquiry into like what is the purpose of this energy. And it's so interesting that
I'm asking the same question.
Well, it's like it would be so much easier to the fact that it's not seen in the mainstream astrological narrative, I think speaks to the fact that it's kind of an unseen energy or like a marginalized energy in general, because it's the energy so much of the psychedelic experience. And like how if you think about us, someone like Terence McKenna, who was very disruptive in the way that he brought forward the psychedelic experience and these sorts of magical, mystical experiences, into the collective consciousness. So that was definitely part of his mission. And that can be something that points to the role that, if you think of what he does, he was completely off the wall, doing something completely different from everyone else. He was a total anomaly. Everyone thought he was the weirdest person ever, but he led psychedelic revolution in a big way, in one of the most grounded ways. Because some of the other people who can be into spirituality can have these other types that are way more entrenched in illusion. And because Ketu is the archetype of almost like the transparent self, like how I was describing, it's kind of like being nobody and somebody at the same time, or like trying to understand, like, how do I have an impact and an influence when I also feel like I'm not like this personality exactly, or like this, and it's so like the thing that kind of brings, that just came up like intuitively when you asked that question, is that, and this is a little bit more specific to you guys as opposed to just speaking for K2 people in general, but I can see that like the connection with the land is so significant as far as like ancestral energies channeling through, that there might be a really strong like impact to you guys visiting certain places that are of ancestral significance, whether that's retreats there. And so the other thing that I'm looking at in the chart for this is just because we also have the North Node in the chart, and just the North Node in anyone's chart can kind of point them towards this question of the mission. But the question of the mission is like, we have to treat that the same way that we treat the North Node in general, is that it is in essence a mystery, and it is in essence the path that's going to like unfold before you, as you walk the path. So you gotta,
what else?
You gotta trust the process.
Which is fine.
What I can say for you, both of you, like given where you're, like I said, like you have your south nodes
and the south and the north.
You're coming from the same direction, you're going in a similar direction. Like, And so, and that direction is actually within the nakshatras that are within Taurus. That's where you guys both have your north nodes. And that's actually pointing to like a much more, like the archetype of Taurus is really the archetype
wealth. Sorry.
Wealth. Yeah, totally. And like alchemizing the shadow work into wealth, but then wealth in the sense of like enjoyment. So a lot of what you guys are being initiated into is like enjoyment as service. You're kind of following this childlike impulse. And again, like the land, that's why I'm saying like Taurus is not theoretical. Taurus is like your hands in the dirt, your feet on the ground. You're like visiting a place. You're like drinking fine wine, like like taverna over the ocean or something like that. And there's like land activations, grid work activations that are happening. And for you guys is actually through pleasure with that Taurus North Node, and actually being able to be like arriving somewhere and kind of asking like, well, what am I supposed to do here? And then it being kind of like, enjoy it. And your energy, like the energy of pleasure, the energy of enjoyment, gets you into phase lock with the earth, because that's kind of like this, like Taurus is an earth sign. This is probably just for anyone who's listening as well too, living in these archetypes, that you can kind of, anyone who has that heavy Taurus in their chart, you guys have it more as your North Node, so you're more so growing into it. That has so much to do with allowing your energy, your personal energy body, to connect to the energy body of the earth, essentially. Probably a lot of mission unlocks and things like that would happen more so as you actually have lived experiences along those lines. And that's something for anyone who has their North Node anywhere. If you're wanting to activate more of your North Node, it's really important to self-initiate with new experiences. South Node, that K2 energy that we talked about, that is a signature in your guys' personality, but then also exists in the chart of anyone. It's like your South Node is all of this accumulated energy of all of your past lives. And that is energy that is very comfortable to like sit in and create from, but it also carries the danger of stagnancy. And anyone who has a strong amount of this like energy in their chart, like you guys have, of just like there's a wealth of past life and ancestral experience and stuff like that. You have like a rich internal world that has to be balanced by exposing yourself to something new. And so that would be, it's like the answer, I guess, that comes through, like looking at your charts and in answer to your question, is that it's very important for you to not know and to try things that are like quite foreign to you, actually. If you're asking the question of the mission, the space of the question is echoing within the same space always been in. And then if you do something completely different, that doesn't even seem.
So does it line up with the concept that we are our own creators to a degree, right? Like we're visualizing and we're creating. We don't quite even know the full picture of it, but we're setting the tone and the vibration and the idea and the concepts, and then we're actualizing it through those experiences and then finding the joy in creating those experiences, which I also feel too, like I feel like maybe there's this aspect of us being unseen as well, that under the radar is like a form of protection too, because we do have so much locked in as far as wisdom goes, and it's like a buried treasure. It almost feels like people could take serious advantage of that and use it in their own favor. And it's almost like a means of protecting yourself. So sometimes it's like, even if I want to have that experience or be involved in being seen a specific way or being thrown in whatever environment, I know sometimes just by my own innate wisdom, I shouldn't be there. Or I should, because it's like a means of protecting the treasure of the wisdom or the knowledge or the ancestral information. And the right people are supposed to align with that. Just like you said, when you're doing certain charts, you're calling these types of people in because you're seeing them in a completely different context than Western astrology, which is, I think, fundamentally very interesting in so many different ways, which makes us unique in so many different ways.
But then what about the Leo aspect that we both have? Like, doesn't that also mean you should step into the spotlight?
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the way I like to interpret the Leo aspect with that is it gives you the opportunity to play with identity.
Yes.
And that can mean taking on, and it's because you don't take it seriously that it's so powerful, or that it can be an expression of divinity and play and childlike wonder, that if you decide to, even just dress in a more grandiose way, or like do some kind of like take dignity in yourself, like carrying yourself with dignity and kind of channeling these higher aspects of yourself, it gives you a lot of space to do that. Whereas if anyone listening has like these Ketu ruled nakshatras, it's important to not fall into nihilism, feeling like a nobody. Whereas a higher expression, especially in this Ketu and it's in this Leo portion, is like, I'm like nobody and everybody. I'm nobody and I'm who I want to be. Like it's a blank canvas.
Right. That makes sense.
Find dignity that's sourced in something higher than just the ego construct.
Right. I'm a celebrity. I'm just going to be a celebrity.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. And then like the week after, I'm like, no, I'm a hermit now. I'm just going to sit at home and do nothing and hide. Right. It's like wearing the different hats and having the different experiences, which is so true.
So basically what I took away, trust the process, try new things.
Live a bougie life.
Be
Have
bougie.
bougie experiences.
Be bougie.
Like wear more fur. That's what I like. Wear more.
I know. Look at that.
I love it. Oh, no, I should be wearing a crown.
Oh my God. I'm not going out in public with her like that.
Natasha, I just wanted to say thank you so much. This was so informative. It's a lot. I think that people would have to replay this again and take down notes to really kind of understand the concept of this. And anyone who wants to book this type of astrology reading, we're going to have all your details. They can book a session with you. It would be really cool for them to also get to know that hone in experience, more detailed experience. I want to thank you so much for coming on to the Soul Thrive podcast. This is amazing. We appreciated it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.